Hey guys, welcome to another video. I am just kind of hanging out today. I'm finishing up some work on some other videos, but I wanted to talk about nightmare gigs. So you guys that play live can probably relate. So I've been playing gigs since I was probably 15 years old, off and on. But mostly, almost every other week, I've played gigs since I was about 22 years old, or 21. And within that time, you're bound to have some nightmare gigs. One gig I can remember was I was playing with a band that I've been playing with for years. And for some reason or another, one of the guys in the band, the singer, got mad at the bass player. And during our first song, or after our first song, or even before we started playing, there was actually a crowd already watching us. It was kind of a corporate gig. He pushed the bass player, and the bass player didn't fall over, but he almost looked like he was going to throw some punches at this lead singer. Which, being as that was our first song of the night, that made for a very awkward rest of our set for the rest of the night, because there was tension. We still played well, and I remember looking back at our drummer, shaking my head like, what is going on? Why are these guys fighting? But stuff like that, I can remember things like that because that's crazy. But the random stuff that happens every now and then where something doesn't work that's equipment wise, that never has really bothered me, because I've always tried to have backup amps, or I always know that I can plug directly into an amp if I have a pedal board fail, or if I can't find out what's wrong with my pedal board before we start playing. That stuff's never really bothered me. The stuff that makes gigs nightmares sometimes is just the people you play with. And I play with a lot of great people, but there's just every now and then you'll have something crazy that happens at a gig with either a person or someone in the crowd. I still remember we played, and this wasn't a nightmare gig, but it's just a funny story. We were playing up in the middle of nowhere, up in this place called Pinedale, Wyoming, and we were in this club, and there was a waitress there that had been bartending all day, and this guy had not tipped her a dime. And during one of our breaks, this guy asked if he could play my guitar. And you get asked that a lot at gigs. And this guy was really cool though. He said, I promise I'll just sit on the edge of the stage and I'll just play it a little bit. And I was fine with it. There was hardly anyone at the club at the time. Just a few people. The night hadn't really started yet. So he sat down and just kind of strummed a few chords. And he walked up to me after he was done and handed me a $100 bill, which just pissed the waitress or the bartender off, because he hadn't tipped her a dime, and she saw it happen. So then I was on her crap list for the rest of the weekend we were there. Not to mention, some cowboy walked up to our bass player and paid him $100 if he could sing a couple songs, which turned into, because this guy was drunk, turned into him not singing a couple songs, but not wanting to get off stage, to the point that we eventually had to mute the guy's mic, and then he got pissed and unzipped his pants and showed us his junk. Luckily, I had a music stand in front of me, so I didn't see it, but the bass player and the drummer saw it. Anyway, there's just kind of crazy stories like that. There's also nightmare gigs where, someone in the band's fighting, like I was talking about earlier. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want you guys to think of some nightmare gigs that you guys have played. Post it in the comments. Last weekend, was it last weekend? Yeah, last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, I played another gig down in central Utah with my friend Jesse. And we played on this flatbed trailer. It was dusty because it was at a rodeo. The flatbed trailer had a metal surface to it, so it was probably like 100 and who knows how many degrees. And so I didn't think ahead, and I just put my pedal board right on that surface. 2 of my pedals stopped working. My delay and one of my vocal pedals, I think. Here, I'll show you guys. Yeah, so this this D-Seed pedal, which is a delay pedal by Joyo, overheated, I guess, because it just stopped working. The lights were still on, but I could not get the delay. I couldn't get signal. Like when I would just plug it in, because it's true bypass, I could get signal through it when it wasn't plugged in, but as soon as I plugged it in, I would completely lose signal. And then this pedal right here would not turn on. And I tried all sorts of stuff. Anyway, kind of a bummer because I rely on my delay pedal a lot, and I also rely on this pedal a lot when I'm playing live. But the thing that, but the show went on. I played the gig even without some of my tools that I, rely on my board. I mean, I don't really need that stuff. I had a reverb. Sounded fine, and the reason I was bummed because the girl that I was playing with had booked to have a guy come do video and sound of this show because she's trying to book some gigs in Texas for something, I can't remember. But I was kind of bummed out about that gig, that the pedals didn't work. But it all worked out in the end because listening back to the audio and the show, it sounds fine, and you don't have to sound, I mean, it's great if you have all your stuff working, but that wasn't a killer for me. And the next night, we had figured it out. We played 2 nights. The next night we had figured it out so that, I took my pedal board into her house the next day and I rewired it and just did some stuff. And then we made sure that we had a carpet that we put down on this metal surface so it wasn't too hot. So the next night, all my pedals worked. Everything was perfect. But needless to say, I could have stressed out about that and the gig could have been really bad, but I didn't. I just went with it. You kind of just have to go with the flow with gigging and just kind of let the things happen as they may. It's not like I couldn't just plug into an amp and get a good tone using a couple channels, but as guitar players, we like our stuff to work, so that was kind of a bummer. But the next night, everything worked. Unfortunately, she wasn't videoing or doing audio that night, so I could have sounded better. But it still sounded good, and we had a good time. But you guys, the reason I'm posting this is I want you guys to comment in the comments of maybe some nightmare gigs that you've had or things that have happened at a gig that are funny. But in the end, really, out of all the gigs I've played over the past, let's see. Wow, it's been 30-something years. Out of all the gigs I've played for that long, gigs usually end up turning out really good. Yeah, the little things you worry about don't really matter, and something usually gets fixed or you pull off the show. I was watching an interview with, I can't remember who it was, but the power went out somewhere and they ended up finishing the show even without power. So, I mean, things happen. But you can still make it good if you want to and you have a positive attitude. Anyway, so that's what this video is about. Anyway, I'll post the footage of the night that my pedal board, those 2 pedals were not working, and you'll see that everything was fine. I've got 10 pedals on my board. So, it still sounded great. I would have liked to have my delay pedal because that adds a little bit to my sound. Why have a delay pedal if you can't use it? But anyway, sounded great. Here it is. Again, you guys, if you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And we will see you at the next video. Adios.
I need you guys to put your hands together.